Hi, guys, and welcome to the third episode of ManaSurge Talk. I'm your host, Keo. Like always, I'm in a new place right now because I just moved last week, but whatever. Joined me today is our team manager and technically owner, Bjorn, who's finally here after 3 episodes.
Yeah, after hiding in the background for 3 episodes, I'm finally out in the open. Okay, hi everyone.
He's been begging me to put him in the episode, so this is a good time.
No.
Uh, yeah.
Alright.
And then after that, we also have Ella, who missed his second chance to go to Japan this year last night. So sorry. But at least you got two chances. Like that, it just means that, yeah,
You can play Amatas Forest and win tournaments.
yeah.
That is the charm. Maybe we will have another shot soon, I hope.
You just prove how strong you are anyway. And speaking of strong players, our guest this time is also pretty strong. It's Bima, the guy who got banned and still got himself into contender somehow. The Amber Sword abuse is pretty work, isn't it?
It sure is.
Hi, Bima. How does it feel to get banned not only in tournament but also in account?
Yeah, it's a bit of a sting, but it'll be fine. It's just
Yeah.
excited.
Even more reason to jump off Shadowverse, I guess. Just kidding.
Hey, I don't think that's the purpose of this culture. Hey.
Well, anyway, so today we have two topics to bring to you guys. The first one is the one that you probably cared more. Of course, it's the card reveal. And I'm just joking. But the other topic is probably a bit more important because it's the tournament format for next year. If you guys don't know, they've been trying to implement this new format for the November Cup, which they cut down on the number of Swiss you need to do in day one, but at the same time you play the single elimination top 16 on day one. So there's some really weird things and controversy around the new format, but that's what we're going to discuss today. First, I think I need to refresh you guys on what the format was. Back in 2017, when SVO first arrived, I guess, technically we had double elimination. It was pretty long, and people complained about it, so they changed it to Swiss to better mimic other card games like MTG and such that had been using Swiss format for the longest time. And now they are trying to do something new with the shortened Swiss. So that's what we're going to discuss right now. But first, I guess I'll ask each of you guys, what are your opinions on the new format?
You might want to go through what the current format was when they were trying as well.
Oh, okay. So the current format is it's basically Swiss for day one into a top 16 cut, and then after the top 16 cut, you play a single elimination on day one, going to top 8 day two. The price is only for people going into day two, just like this year. So that's probably one of the biggest point of controversy, because you can probably lose your top 8 spot even if you go perfect in Swiss. But that's the simple explanation of what the new format is. The biggest difference is that you play a lot less Swiss. According to the rule set, basically, if previously you have to play 8 Swiss with the number of players you have, you only need to play 6 rounds of Swiss. So it basically cuts down on time for people who are a bit more casual and just playing for the packs or don't want to try hard that much. So any opinions? I guess we'll start with Bjorn. What do you think of this new format?
Depending on what perspective you're looking at, in a player's perspective, I feel that the whole risk of you might have gone unbeaten and then you go into top 16 and then you just lose your top 8 spot. I think that doesn't really matter as much, because ultimately in the single elimination format in the day 2, ultimately you have to win everything. So what I feel is that doesn't really matter too much. Of course, I do feel that they do have to kind of incentivize a little bit for the top 16 players, because it would be quite a bummer if like you make top 16 and then you just like play one round and then you have you just walk away with nothing basically. Apart from that, what other things that come to mind would be lesser round of Swiss. Personally, it does cut down time, which is great for the organizers' point of view. But I think in like the pursuit of like finding like which is the better player, it doesn't really matter too much. I feel like, and yes, you do give lesser packs, but if casual players want to farm packs, they are going to stay regardless. So I think even like the lesser number of rounds don't really matter, because they always have the option to drop.
Yeah, because at the end of the year, like people had start dropping after losing 3, then the pack doesn't really matter that much, even for the casual ones.
Yeah, I mean, even then, like in the later seasons, most casual kind of like not play as much as well, cause it's pretty much more about like the race to like who's gonna like get their contender spot and trying to race for the top ladder more than like casuals having fun later on. At least that's what I feel, but I'm not sure how the others feel about it.
So what do you think, Ella? Like,
I think that if they want to implement the system, they should remove or reduce the number of points you get per winning a round.
oh yeah, point does matter, right,
Right.
for the season.
It matters the most. And I also don't think they're gonna implement the system. They were just testing it. From what I think this is their solution to what we suggested at Contenders Cup, and it isn't good. I would rather have the 2019 system, which sucked, but it was better than the top 16 one, which is completely absurd.
I guess I'll also ask you guys this, but do you guys prefer the double elim or Swiss format?
Double elim.
So Ella prefers double elim.
Well,
I think Swiss is considerably better than double elimination. I think this is actually a middle ground. Like the solution that Cygames is testing is a middle ground between double elim and Swiss. Because if you think about it, once you reach the top cutoff, right, you have to win 4 in a row in order to win the tournament. Whereas in double elimination, you needed to win like 8 in a row, right? So it's a bit of like a mix between those two. But I think generally speaking, Swiss is a better test of consistency skill than it is for double elimination.
Yeah, that's also my biggest problem with double elimination, because you get punished so hard, but for losing early on, you have to play basically double the amount of games
yeah.
compared to when you go undefeated. And it does result in some really weird bracket timing issues.
Yeah, but the problem with Swiss and awarding points to the paid is I personally got packed the most in EU because I was 9th 4 times. So,
Yeah.
and I got to contenders only because Imari won the last SVO. If he didn't win, I wouldn't get in. So
Yeah,
I
that's
got
probably
minus 8 points by getting bad tiebreakers, and it's not my fault. That's why I prepare for games like Shadowverse and for a system like that. When you have clear-cut points for the top 8, I would prefer a system like we had in 2018, or more tournaments and the set or whatever championships where the winner gets to Contenders Cup and more slots for people with points than for winners.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
speaking of frequency, if I recall, like in the previous year, we kind of did it every week, was it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
almost every week.
almost every week.
That's your region, right?
It's technically, I guess, the only difference is that I forgot. I think in NA and EU you had 2 rotation, 1 only, and one take 2
It was
every
free
month.
rotation, 1 unlimited, and
3 rotation, 1 unlimited, and 1 take 2.
1 take 2.
And the top 18 points go to play
Playoffs, right?
set championship. The winner goes to contenders, and you don't earn points at the championship.
Oh yeah, that format is definitely better for like to decide for contenders and like WGP compared to this year's format. But I think going back to the like singular tournament format, the top 16 one, I think that's like one of the problems that they want to solve, because in a card game, right? The more games that you play, the bigger the chances are you for to fail. And having like 8 rounds of Swiss does mean that if you suddenly lose 3 games in a row, like after going 5-0, then you're out no matter what. Like even losing 2 games at the end might actually give you, like, kicks you out from top 8, which is a bit hard to swallow, right?
Sorry, I just want to point out, like, Eladrin, you mentioned that coming ninth is a pretty tough pill to swallow, right? But you can only really come ninth if you've lost 2 matches in the Swiss, right? So what difference is that from playing in double elimination, losing 2 rounds, and then just being out of the tournament straight away?
So that's what, like,
There's no difference, but it feels better if you lose in double
yeah,
elimination.
because in double elimination, right, you like, you don't, after you lose 2, you just go out. You don't need to just play the rest of the games knowing that, oh, I might go into top 8, which is the biggest problem with the current format. Like if you lose 2 on the first 2 rounds, you technically have a chance to go to top 8, and if you're a competitive player, then you have to play the 6 other games, even though like the chances for you to go to top 8 isn't that very high because you've won it. And I think that's like one of the biggest thing that they want to solve by shortening the amount of Swiss. So for example, if you lose 2 in the first round, then you only have 4 more rounds to play to go to top 16, which has like bigger chance to go to top 16 instead of top 8, just due to the amount of cut.
Well, one thing I want to say is that
We're gonna get 17 and complain.
I mean, even if you get to 17, right? Like you only play 6 rounds this time around instead of like the whole 8 round. I guess I will still complain, but
People are still gonna complain.
at least I don't waste that much time.
I think that, like, for you guys, right, like, you guys have played other card games before. I mean, if you played Swiss in those formats, right, and you go 0-2 in the first couple of rounds, I mean, you're definitely not making the top
You drop
8.
out.
There's actually no reason to play, aside from the fact that you get leaderboard points. Like, if you go 0-2, or if you go 1-2 in your first couple of rounds, right, you know you're not going to top. You're only playing for the points, so I don't think that's actually a relevant, like, point of view to be having. Like, you're not playing for top 8 after you lose 1-2.
Like even then, it's still relevant because again, the time for you to play 8 rounds of Swiss is it's a pretty big commitment compared to 6. Because what they do with the new format is that they shorten the amount of rounds of Swiss by 2, like at least an hour of your day taken off if you don't get to top 8. So it feels a bit better to just play the rest for points.
Switching in other card games works differently in MTG, and I know that it's true for other card games. Almost nobody with two losses makes it to the top 8 in like 7 or 8 rounds, for example, because you can take an intentional draw and just take that ID to make the pay. You can't do that in Shadowverse, so
yeah,
I don't know why.
Sorry, for Yu-Gi-Oh though, I'm pretty sure you can go X2 and you can still top 8. So it's dependent on the card game, I'm pretty sure, and like the Swiss format they use.
Yeah, it also depends on the number of players in rounds. So
one thing I want to say is the difference between a top 8 cutoff, right, and top 16 cutoff is that I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I personally think the variance in Shadowverse is really high. And what I mean by that is, the best player doesn't always win.
Nobody thinks that.
Yeah, of course. So if you're doing a round of like a top 16, right, you've got way more chances for the best player to just randomly get unlucky and lose a round. But in top 8, they only have to play 3 matches. So I think any move away from top 8 to like a bigger like kind of single elimination format is inevitably going to be worse for the integrity or the competitiveness of that tournament.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably like the biggest weakness of this format, and something that they need to fix. Like at least they need to reward people who have been doing like really good in the Swiss. So maybe it's not going to be like just top 16. Maybe they let players who went like 8-0, 6-0 on the Swiss go through. But yeah, like it's an idea that I have in my head, but even then, it's really hard to implement.
I have one other concern, and that's more like, as you know, the tournament format they tested, it included all 3 regions, so CO, PAM, Euro. And so for CO and PAM, which gets like an average of 140 players, I mean, top 16 cutoff, fair enough, right? But I mean, like,
Or
no
you-
offense to EU, but like, you guys get like 70 players or something like that. Like,
Yeah, so
even
70,
that,
60.
right? So you can't do a top
The last
16
one
cutoff.
50.
yeah, that's also one of the biggest problem.
I mean, what's the point of doing even like 5 rounds of Swiss? Like, if like a quarter of your players are gonna make it to the top like 16, right?
Yeah, it might as well
I
just play
mean-
double elimination for those like group.
So I think like even if Cygames do want to go through with that format, they need to come up with a different solution for the Europe region.
I agree with that. Also, like, two other big changes is the tournament client.
Oh
And
yeah,
2 decks, 0 bans. That sucks.
so the zero ban stuff like that's like it needs to not get through.
Yeah, definitely. 2-0
Like-
is just terrible.
I'm okay with not doing tournament client. Still get 3 deck 1 ban.
So I have a few thoughts about the difference between 2-deck 0 ban and 3-deck 1 ban. So obviously, regardless of the format, you're still playing a best of 3. But the difference is when you bring in 3 decks, right? You have to be proficient with at least 3 different decks. Whereas if you only bring 2 decks, then you have to be proficient with 2, right? So just inherently, there's actually a difference in skill level or knowledge required in order to do well in tournaments, right? And the other factor is actually in regards to the fact that in certain formats, for example, let's say Burning Conflict, I mean, Natural Haven was and still is the best deck by far. So, I mean, when you play a 2-deck 0-ban format, you actually get a lot less diversity, like if I was bringing Natural Haven, right? And there'll be a lot of metas like that. There's always a meta where one deck is just so much better than every other deck. And sure, you can potentially, like, it plays more skill on like playing a mirror match, putting in tech and so forth. But I mean, like I think overall, like it increases like the amount of like decks you can play, and also I think you also lose a 3-deck 1 ban strategy. Where, for example, if you knew that your opponent couldn't play Haven at all, then you could play other decks that don't have to deal with like fast aggro.
Yeah, it definitely like 3 deck 1 ban gives you a bit more leeway on how creative you would want to put your lineup, which is like I think the biggest thing about 3 deck 1 ban. A lot of the success that we had like during this year, especially, is because people correctly guess like what decks that everyone is going to bring and come up with a lineup that counters them or at least tries to punish them for it. And you can't have that in 2-deck 0 ban. Everyone is going to play the best deck,
The best 2 decks.
the best 2 decks. If we have 2 decks.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be that case. Even like in the recent contenders, it's always been how. Oh yeah, for contenders there was no bans as well, right? So it was like 3 decks, best of 5.
Yeah.
It was still the same problem, right? Because everyone's just going to queue Haven into Haven, and then whoever so-called wins the mirror Havens gets that statistically better chance, and then then the Roach comes in and then rinse and repeat, and then it's just down to the third the third deck that nobody really plays until the very last round. So I think having bans in general is just adds a bit more dimension and diversity to the field. I that's what I think.
I would love 4 decks 1 ban, but there are people who take like 1 fucking hour to finish a best of 3. So we are not gonna
Oh
get
yeah.
best of 5.
4-deck 1 ban is like a very Hearthstone thing, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree completely, though. I think 4-deck 1 ban is like probably the best format available. I think one of the regions, I think it's Taiwan actually, they did 4-deck 1 ban, and like the consistency level of those players there is really high because if you think about how easy it is to get blown out when you're playing like 2 games, like best of 3 versus like best of 5, like you can start to understand that these are formats where it rewards a better player like over time. So I think like any move towards 2-deck 0 ban favors casual players. I think any move towards the kind of 3-deck 0 ban format or 4-deck 1 ban format is inherently good for the better players.
But
Well, the 2-deck 0 ban, right? It's a very Japanese format.
yeah.
They really cater toward casual, I think, their format.
And the player base is huge.
Yeah, which is
they kinda have to
understandable.
do that. Yeah. If I'm not wrong, for Taiwan, even though they do 4 decks 1 ban, but I believe they do not play Swiss, right? because of the time taken.
Mm,
They probably like do like double eliminations for that.
I have
I
no
think that
idea.
would be fine.
Double elimination would take longer than Swiss in 4 deck 1 ban. I
I
feel.
think that's only for playoffs, Bjorn. I think for playoffs they definitely do double. Oh no, yeah, I think playoffs is double elimination,
Mhm.
but I think for the other like
Yeah, I'm not
rounds,
sure about their regular seasons. Like, how do they actually play it?
What do you guys
I
think
think
about
playoffs-
like having a different amount of decks for day 1 and day 2 in like SPO? Because it's an idea that have been throwing around for quite a while.
Oh, you
But
mean like
it's
resubmitting lists once you make top 8 or whatnot?
yeah.
It could work, but I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna like want
mean,
to do it.
If they want like
more work for the admins.
I mean,
think it's-
logistically, it might be a pain in the ass, right? Like, you kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
have to chase players for their list, and they only have like that night to submit the list, I guess, depending on what
Yeah,
time
but
they
if you
end.
make top 8, like I'm pretty sure if you make top 8, you're gonna make that effort, right? Like when you're
Yeah.
back, it's like basically
Yeah,
making
true.
But one thing I'll say is I actually think it would be a great idea if they switch like day 2 into 3 deck 0 ban. And the reason why I say that is because you know, if at the end of the year, like after playing like, you know, 11 months or whatever of SCO, right, and you go Contenders Cup, and then like the only tournament of the year where you play 3 deck 0 ban, as opposed to like, you know, 2 deck 1 ban for the entire year, like you don't get any practice on the real formats. And I think that's a bit of an issue.
Hmm.
Yeah, 3 deck 0 ban is a very different format, even from 3 deck 1 ban. Like, I was practicing with BMA a lot before Contender, and we were both scratching our brains trying to come out with the perfect format. Even though we have like the last SBO, so we basically have knowledge from Pam and you. It's still very hard if you're not used to it.
Yeah, but the thing was, that meta was awful. You had to play Haven, and then you also had to play either Natural Forest or Roach. So that left you with one deck, and it was either Dragon or Shadow, because the rest
rest
of
of-
the classes were bad.
Pretty,
And
yeah.
Yeah.
not many people were willing to play Sword, which was good, but I think nobody kind of knew how to build Natural Sword, and that hurt a lot of people. I think Pain was actually ahead of the meta when he, with his lineup to beat Shadow.
Mhm.
I don't know. It just sucks that you had to play Haven.
So
The deck was so
yeah,
good that you had to play it.
It feels like a
That
very
just-
coin flip, pretty much.
And if you think that was bad, then just think about what will happen if it's 2 deck 0 ban next year. Then you'll also be forced to play the best deck every single tournament.
Roach Haven every game.
But one thing I want to mention is if we were playing Verdant Conflict on the 3 deck 1 ban, you could actually build a match, like you could build a lineup that doesn't die to Roach. I mean, that does die to Roach, but you could ban it. So like you could actually craft your lineup in such a way that you can get rid of like, you can try and counter Natural Haven, right? But because of the fact that you're playing 2 deck 0 ban and 3 deck 0 ban, there's no way to like build a lineup that beats both Haven and Roach at the same time.
I wonder if they should change Contender to 4 deck 1 ban as well.
It would be better, I think. But look, I think there's a lot of things they could do. I definitely think 4 deck 1 ban would make a lot of sense. Most of the people playing at Contenders, they're like prepping for like weeks in advance. Like if you don't have an excuse to say, oh, I don't have time to prep for 4 decks. Like you do, right? Like most important tournament of the year for you. So I think like 4 deck 1 ban, like if the players want it, I think the Side Games or NG or whatever, like they should try and accommodate for them.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the time that they schedule for a tournament, those players will not be like affected by any patch or whatnot. So, in fact,
Hopefully.
it's like 1 month into the expansion, right, for these current contenders. So it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. At least 3 weeks. I think Pam and you is 3 weeks after.
Yeah. 3 weeks is quite sufficient time for preparation.
I don't think any player that is qualified for Contenders Cup would complain about not having cards for the deck. Like,
Yeah.
yes, what the actual fuck?
Especially since they already implemented temporary cards. You
Yeah.
definitely don't have reasons
Yeah.
to not have all the best decks right now. And we already talked about how important ban is especially in Shadowverse, because Shadowverse always have that one deck that basically just counters everything.
Every expansion.
Yeah, every expansion, and it really limits on what deck you can bring. Like some decks tier 2 feels viable in tournament if X deck doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I think one other question that I want to ask you guys is that, do you prefer like a better one, like one tournament in a month, but with a better format, like a very competitive format, or do you guys prefer like the same format but more frequent tournament? I think Ella already said his, right?
More frequent tournaments.
I think for me personally, I actually quite like the 1 month, one tournament format. I work full time now. I have less time to kind of spend every single weekend playing Shadowverse now. So I really appreciate the fact that I can actually practice like a week or two before the tournament, and then like the other weekends I'll actually have time free to do like other real life stuff. So I actually think it's a good thing that they went to 1 month now, 1 month per tournament.
I also prefer 1 month, by the way. But what about you, Bjorn?
Once a month is great because you have a lot more time to practice, and usually you don't get occasionally you do get cut by like the whole patch thing, right? Like if you are the unfortunate region, SEO region, that pretty much have to play like a few days after an expansion release. But apart from
Technically EU as well.
yeah, EU as well, but that I think it's like once a month's great. I mean that was kind of like what they had in mind, right? Where we have a monthly tournament in SVO, and then we try and make it like high stakes. So whoever wins that contenders cup for that month, and not contenders cup, whoever wins that monthly gets into contenders
SVO,
cup.
yeah.
So that was like their way of doing a more like less frequent but high stake tournament to try and give it some novelty to it in a way. So I think that's fine, but if you're going to do something more regular, I do feel that like weeklies are kind of overkill, so they probably could try and adjust it more like bi-weekly, kind of like what we're trying to do right now.
I mean, I could say that they could keep one premier tournament per month, and then they could have like one. How do I say it? Like maybe a tournament that still has a prize pool, you still have like a prize pool of maybe a few $1,000, and then that way like contribute to like kind of overall SVO prize, the SVO leaderboard.
one rotation, one unlimited every month.
I think K2 would be pretty cool, right? But
Take-Two would be really cool, actually. I know Ella is considering like Take-Two the best format in Shadowverse, like the most skillful.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I have to say that
Take-Two. We used to have like huge controversy about that like last year, and people like saying that we need to take away Take-Two. It's like RNG because you might not draft cards that better than the other and things like that. So there's always those school of thought of people who disagree that having Take-Two is good. So
yeah. I think the funny thing about that is I remember last year I was chatting with Crumsian, and like he was like a massive hater of like Take-Two for WGP, and then basically after WGP he basically told me like how good Take-Two was and how skillful it was, and I'm like, wow, that's like a real like 180. But I think when you actually start prepping Take-Two and then you actually see like the amount of skill that goes into it and the bit of knowledge that is required to do well with it, I think you can actually change your mind in terms of it's actually like a more rewarding format than rotation most of the time. Because you have two aspects. You actually have not only the drafting aspect, but you also have the play aspect, right? Whereas rotation is more like the net deck aspect and then like the playing aspect. So
yeah, you need to have a more broader knowledge on what cards are in the pool right now, and especially because
almost every competitive player I talk to and I consider good like Take-Two, and this is the format that we actually need to prepare, because of course we all know that rotation prep most of the time is like you queue the decks, you play them on ladder or maybe you skim a bit, but most of the deck autoplay themselves. You don't need to actually know how to play the game to win with them. And in Take-Two, it's not the case. Also, with all the changes they've been making to Take-Two, it's actually a good format, but nobody plays it because it's not required for SVO.
Yeah. If we have Take-Two in competitive format, we would have more things to talk in card reviews because they do have like a lot of good cards that are pretty good in Take-Two, but doesn't see play in rotation.
That's also one thing in card reviews, because a lot of people rate cards like, oh yeah, this card is 3 out of 5, which means everything below 4 or 5 is everything
It's trash.
Yeah.
The card that's
It's like-
3 is not gonna see any play.
Cards like Ragna is very, very trash in rotation, but it's very broken in Take-Two. Ragna away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking about Take-Two, right? Like, so now we kind of have people favoring Take-Two more. Like, I just threw chat the question as well. Seems like whoever responded so far are pretty much yay for Take-Two instead of nay. But while we are on the Take-Two topic, I know they don't have the system set up for Open 6, but what do you think of like competitive Open 6 instead?
Open 6 is way worse than Take-Two.
Alright.
Take-Two, you have like a general idea on how many legends and gold that your opponent have. In Open 6, you don't.
That's true.
So,
That's
like,
true.
In Magic, almost everyone, like competitive players, love drafting.
But it hits you.
Everybody hates it. So
It's in a way it's even worse than Sealed.
Yeah,
It's like if you're
I'm glad I
playing-
threw this out, so at least we can talk about it.
It's like if you're playing Sealed in MTG and some packs have 3 rares instead of 1.
Oh man, yeah, okay, that's true.
Yeah.
But hey, it's a digital card game. Maybe they could like rig the algorithm or something. Who knows?
I remember I played a game with like Open 6. I opened with like 3 Unleash the Nightmare or something. It was like the easiest, like, it was so free. Like, you just couldn't lose, right? And I just thought to myself, like, imagine if this was actually like a competitive format and you just like open with like, I don't know, 3 Destructive Succubus or something like that. Like, how could you possibly lose, right? And then you just be like, I'm so skilled at the game, but like, what the hell, right?
Open 6 is whack. It's really whack. Anyway, I guess is there anything else you guys want to like suggest or say about the current tournament format? Like, is there anything you guys think that will be a good implementation? Whether is it for the old format or just the new one? I guess we already finished talking about the new one, so maybe something to improve the old format.
So one thing that they could actually do, right, is I've noticed that a lot of people drop out of tournaments like after they can no longer make contention. And I think one of the things that side games could actually implement, right, is rather than do 2 packs per win, they should actually just make it a flat number. And then, like, for anyone who actually fully completes the tournament, they should get like 10 packs or whatever the number is.
That's a good idea. It's a better incentive, I guess, for casual players.
Yeah. I mean, while I was playing like some other trading card games, sometimes you know like how certain card games have their promo cards, and some people are just there for the promo card and then they kind of dropped after that. So
Yeah.
from what I see, like there are some games where they like don't give you the promo card off the get go. They give you like X round later. So you know those players are like kind of forced to play till a certain round. But yeah, I can see where this is coming.
What about in terms of points? Because I know Eladrin is like very close to Swiss
but,
because of the point.
I just want to get back to the packs per win, because like 2 packs per win is bad, because if you are a casual new player, you may not have all the decks to compete. And what would happen is SBO, in my case sometimes, I would go 0-2 and I would face a clearly new player, because he would have 1 good deck and 2 decks that are like
Subpar.
kind of yeah. So
Full legendary.
obvious that this guy is not gonna win a single round unless he gets a bye. So he's gonna spend his time playing 7 or 8 rounds, only getting a bye, and he's gonna get only 2 packs. So the flat amount for just competing in the tournament is way better for new players. And
Yeah, I
players.
think incentivizing for like just playing through will be a good idea.
Of course, ideally we have tournament mode to solve that problem because all cards are unlocked there. But yeah, unless they can implement 3-deck 1-ban and tournament mode, it's going to be a pretty hard thing to do.
I mean, even that said, like, there's a lot of work to be done in the background with regards to tournament mode, because you have to collect all the IDs. You have to make sure IDs are even entered correctly, and by the time you pass a certain deadline, like, you can't make any changes at all. So even if like we do have very like nice and understanding admins that would actually go out their way to try and help people, but these things are like kind of things that's not within their control, so they can't even like assist them. So there's that downside as well.
Okay, I think lastly we'll. No, okay, just continue.
Sorry, I think if I recall correctly, last year at the World Circuit tournaments, I'm pretty sure didn't we use tournament mode for that? And then we just you had to like ban a deck like face to face.
Yeah,
And then like you would
it
just
was
continue to play like
yeah.
as if it was two deck zero ban.
So that was weird. That was awkward. I remember that as well.
But I mean, like that is something that could technically be done if you wanted to keep three deck one ban and like serious tournament mode.
Yeah, but since they don't have the system right now to do bans, I think it's kind of tough.
Yeah.
So Ed is asking about blind versus open deck list and what are your opinions? I think we all agree on open deck lists.
I don't think it matters. Closed deck list favors classes that have more archetypes, like Forest right now. But I think it's pretty standard right now to have open deck list for almost every card game tournament that matters.
Or at
Sword
least digital card game at least.
I think open deck list is much better than closed deck list. I think it does give like a disproportionate advantage to Forest, as you just mentioned, in particular, and also Swordcraft to an extent, right? In some metas, like for example, the Swordcraft between Natra and Eladrin against Forest, for instance, right? Like you actually mulligan differently depending on if you're playing against Roach or if you're playing against Natural Forest, right? And like just losing like the coin flip there, and like on top of which, if you have a team and like and you're like teammate versus a guy like in the previous round, you just go, hey, what forest is he running? And then they just tell you. So I mean, it does actually provide a kind of an advantage to teams and
Yeah.
to people who don't.
Yeah, which is actually a very common thing. Like even previously when I was playing other card games, that's what we always do. Like we actually have like a spreadsheet, and then we'll just write in every single archetype that we all face. Like even it doesn't matter if like they won early or they like lost early. We just write down everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Close.
as well. Like when I played like versus a guy, like, hey, what's this guy running? And then he's running like Blackwing Swing. Like, right, anything like interesting. And, like,
Take note of certain
like,
tech cards, blah blah.
Yeah, it's like it's running Stardust or whatever. Like I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh in years, but like that was like a thing.
Yeah, we have internet now.
Yeah.
We have easy way to do open deck lists. Why do closed deck lists?
There are card games that benefit from having closed deck list. I think MTG is one of the games that benefits a lot from
sideboard.
closed deck list. There were formats in Shadowverse that closed deck list would be awesome, but
It's not always.
almost every format this year was super wacked.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind having
Closed
open deck list all the time.
deck list does give you an incentive to play some really weird lists, right? I know back then, Sun used to play Idol on Haven. Like this was way back then, and people would queue something weird into the Haven, and you would get some wins of it. And I do remember that back then also Aggro Dragon is something that people feared, but you don't know if it's Aggro Dragon or not until they play the first cards, and it's really weird. Like it does give you more like creativity to build your lineup, but at the same time you don't want the guy who plays Aggro Dragon and just meme everyone to death, like winning the whole tournament or going to top 8.
Why not?
I mean, yeah, but like half of his wins are through just like
Surprising people with aggro
Yeah.
going face.
yeah, it does affect mulligans, right? If you're playing like just standard dragons.
That's the main problem with closed deck lists. But I also think that closed deck lists it encourages you to innovate and build something that nobody knows how to play and how to play against. But the problem with Shadowverse this year has been that most of the decks kind of build themselves, so you didn't really have much room for innovation.
I mean, even right now, like you can suddenly play something like Aggro Blood, which is viable in close deck lists, I think.
Go O2 and drop. That's a
That's
good
right,
idea.
sure.
I'll give you guys another example. It wasn't too relevant this meta, but I remember like a long time ago, you know when like Themis' like Purge like first came out? And like you could actually consider like running like a one-off copy, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
in the closed list format, right? Like they might not run it, but you like would always have it like the back of your head. But like basically, if you know whether or not they run it, you can actually change the way you play. And I think that is a skill. It's actually a skill on both ends, but I feel like it's a lot more of a blowout. Like if some guy runs a card that you know exists, but he shouldn't run, and then you get punished by it. I think that's something that would really trigger someone. Whereas if you
If
know
you
that they're
know
running
it,
it and you
yeah.
play around it, like you actually have that kind of you have that decision. You can actually make the risk reward because you know he runs one copy or he runs 3 copies. Change like the way you play accordingly. Oh shit! I don't know what that was. But yeah, anyway, like I think it's much better to get blown out by something that you know is in the deck, rather than getting blown out by something that they shouldn't be running, but somehow they run one copy of.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we're done with the format discussion.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that many time left, so let's move on to the other things that people are here for. The new card,
All right.
the new expansion. They announced a new expansion yesterday. It's called Ultimate Colosseum. From the trailer, it's basically a big tournament arc for Shadowverse, which I don't know how like they'll implement it in the card mechanics. So far, some of the cards have a lot of decks and a lot of powers put into it. On the other hand, we also have the Princess Connect collaboration part 2, and
Yeah.
this is the first time that they have like real cards from collaboration. I guess technically they do from Bridges of the Sky.
Yeah, kinda. But
The-
they didn't strictly say like it was like Grand Blue Fantasy as compared to
Yeah.
like Princess Connect.
And some of the Grand Blue Fantasy characters are in Bahamut as well, so
Yeah.
doesn't really count, I think. But anyway, the Preconic art also comes with a new mechanic that I think will only be for the Preconic cards. We haven't seen other like non-Preconic cards have the mechanic Union Bars.
Yeah.
I'll explain a bit about Union Burst. So, Union Burst it comes from like a system in Princess Connect that like it's basically Ogi or special skills. If you play other mobile games, it's similar. In Shadowverse, what they did is that there's a number next to the Union Burst. The effect will only activate when you're at turn X
10.
or higher. Right now, everything is at 10, but like maybe later in the future they'll have Universe 5 or something, but we don't know yet. And the number will go down if you have that card in hand and one of your follower evolves. So it has some evolve mechanic onto it,
Oh, okay.
which really helps because getting to turn 10 in Shadowverse is not that easy.
A difficult task nowadays.
Yeah, it's difficult nowadays. Before we go into the cards, like, what are your guys' opinion on like the mechanic in general, Universe mechanic? It certainly seems weak on paper, but now that I think about it a bit more, you do get like if you have them in hand by turn 4 or turn 5, you probably will have them activate at turn 7, and some of these effects are very very strong if you got it on turn 7 or turn 8.
Yeah, okay, so let me get this straight. So each time you evolve, the cost drops by 1 for the
The
burst.
Union Burst
So
drop by
so I guess players going second get to reduce the Union Burst cost a little bit more, like 1 more.
Yeah,
That's about it. Yeah.
more advantage going second, I guess.
In a way. Apart from that, I mean there are decks that play around like the Evo mechanic, and it seems pretty okay right now because we still have those kind of cards. But of course these cards might just like die out as we go later on into like 2020 when they start to cycle out. So we have to see really.
So my view, when I first saw the Union Burst mechanic, was I laughed and I said, "Well, you don't reach turn 10 anyway, so like this mechanic is like freaking garbage, right?" But to be honest, I kind of thought that might be the case in Nitro, and obviously I was wrong about that. So I think Union Burst is actually fairly strong if you play it early, like turn 7, turn 8. But so far, I haven't seen anything strong enough that would make me feel that. I haven't seen anything strong enough that would make me feel like you would overturn decks. But obviously, only like 10 cards have been revealed so far. One thing I'll say is I actually like Union Burst as a mechanic if it creates real meaningful choice. So, like for example, there might be a card with a strong effect even without the Union Burst, but you might think, oh, but if I save it for 2 more turns, I can actually play for the Union Burst effect. So you actually get like delayed gratification in a way for saving the card. And I think any type of meaningful choice that can meaningful choices generated within Shadow Burst is actually good for the game. So I think Union Burst has the potential to be good, but I also see there being significant high roll potential. For example, if you open a set of Union Burst cards at turn 1 or turn 4, and then you evo 3 times and you play a Union Burst 7, it's very different from a player who like literally doesn't draw into the Union Burst card until after the evo card is already spent. So one other thing that I think is very important is the way that you as a player play against Union Burst cards. So if you see an opponent has evo, say 4 times because they're running like 3 evo effects, right? You actually have to think to yourself, okay, like you can play this, but you can also maybe use the Union Burst effect, which means I get punished by playing into it. So I think overall it's a good mechanic. I'm just not sure if
it's viable right now. Yeah. Ella, you have anything to add?
No, I think that the only cards with Onion Burst are going to be playable are the cards that are good by themselves. So
oh yeah, definitely.
They're good without the effect of Union Burst.
All right. I guess we'll start with the first card that is on the page right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Pecorino, yeah. Peckish
Yes.
Princess. It's a Swordcraft legendary with a trade commander. It's a 3/3/2 rush with the Funfair Union Burst 10. Gain +3/+3, then deal 5 damage to an enemy follower at the end of your and another text down below that says at the end of your turn, gain +0/+1. That one is not included in the Union Burst. Has the same like normal evo stat and same effect. Pretty weak card in a not like it's a 3/3/2 rush, which isn't very great.
It's okay, and if you play it, your opponent has to kill it because it's gonna grow bigger and bigger.
Slightly better Tempest Lancer without the bot wipe, I guess.
Yeah, going first, you do have the choice to not trade this in, or like at any point, you do have the choice to not trade this in and get the 3/3 stats. And it is a Swordcraft card, so you do like the Swordcraft is always good about having cards that do something on the early game and have something like a bigger effect on the late game, and it does feels like a Swordcraft card because the Union Burst is pretty strong, even if it's way too late.
Yeah, I think the card is like, I mean, at first glance, right? Because there might be support printed for it, but like in the context of what we've seen so far and also the current set, I think it's garbage. I mean, it's competing with. I know Optrist rotates out, but like it's still competing with Ether, for instance. So the 3-drop. I think the 3/2 is pretty weak. I think the 3/3 is pretty weak as well. It's never going to hit anything and then like kind of like it's not going to hit something and then like survive, right? So it's really just like a 3 damage like removal, and Sword doesn't run any Evo effects either. So I just didn't see a world where like this card is actually any good. I don't know why it's legendary. It should be like.
It should be like gold, yeah.
Yeah.
Like at most gold. Union Burst is really strong. You got a 6/5 rush and also deal 5. It doesn't win you the game. It's pretty sad, but like Swordcraft card, you want the tempo.
It's
like when you get to late game.
It's a 2-for-1, kinda.
Yeah, but I mean, if that's like your Union Burst for 10, like it's kind of weak, right? But,
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess there's not much to say about this card. Just like a very vanilla card with some extra effect late game.
Yeah.
Really does depends on like how like 3-drop slot basically for Swordcraft in the future. Maybe we'll see play after Alpha Plane rotates out.
I mean, it might still be played after all because like cards do rotate out and there might not be a better replacement, so you kind of just like jam this card in anyway. Cause like 3/2 rush is still kind of playable. Not the best, but still playable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think usurping Spine Blade actually rotates
Yeah.
alongside Ultras, so maybe there is a spot. But I can't help but feel there's like already a better 3-drop. It's like apart from Evo.
I mean, who knows, man? Maybe the 3-drop go will be better than this, and then everyone just plays the go.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move
Right.
on.
Yeah, let's move on to the next card, which is a Rune Legendary. I'm preparing myself because this is a lot of text. Alright. Kuon, founder of Onmyodo. It's a Runecraft Legendary follower. 15 costs 5/5. With fanfare, summon a Celestial Shikigami, Demonic Shikigami, and a Paper Shikigami. Whenever an allied Demonic Shikigami or Paper Shikigami comes into play, give it Storm. Subtract 0 from the cost of this card. Spell boost, subtract 1 more. It has the vanilla stats on Evo and the same like static effect. Moving on to the tokens, we have Paper Shikigami, which is 2 mana 1/3. Last word, spell boost the cards in your hand. Demonic Shikigami, a 3/3 with last word, spell boost the cards in your hand. And lastly, Celestial Shikigami, which is a ward, and last word, spell boost the cards in your hand 3 times.
3?
So
2?
we
3? 2.
3 times. 2 times? Isn't it
Celestial?
3 times? Yeah, Celestial 3 times.
Okay.
Wait, I'm not wrong, right? It's 3 times. 3
Says
times.
2 on the official website.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it's 3 times.
All right. So basically, it's another Storm follower for spell boost, but at 15 original costs. So more Storm for spell boost.
It's okay,
Yeah.
probably. But I don't know if it's gonna be good enough to make spell boost good, or to make spell boost better than the shop deck.
So, in my opinion, I think the card that you compare this to is actually Golem Squad. So, it's like the 3 mana spell that, like, depending on how many times you spell boost it, you get like better like result, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually you get like the Golem, like the ultimate clay Golem or something like that.
Mhm.
And that only requires you to spell boost it like 11 times. It's also a spell card. Whereas for this card, it's 15 cost, and I think the payoff is pretty strong. But I'm just questioning whether or not it's actually like it might cost a little bit too much. And like if you draw it late in the game, like do you actually have a way to like boost it down from 15? That said, I think you might actually like I've seen like they've already reprinting like quite a strong like kind of spell boost like there's like a 2-cost spell and like a 3-cost follower that like all boost quite a lot. But maybe you would run it like together with Golden Squad. You can actually run like a real spell boost deck. So I think it's good. Just requires a bit more time to see what the rest of the set will offer.
I personally think like this card you can't like think about it about like same with Zilot that you want to have it at 0 cost. I think the strongest thing about this card is that it's also a spell boost card. So you might want to just play it as 6 like on turn 6. So it's a 6 mana with a lot of stats.
On turn 6 or 7, it's really insane.
Yeah, on
Yeah.
turn 6. If you get it on turn 6, or maybe on turn 7, like play on 7 costs, because this card does spell boost your whole hand 5 times in total. So it does gets you into like chaining spell boost cards. So like if you have another one on hand, you play the first one, and then the second one will also get discounted by this card as well.
Yeah, I believe the 4/5 is also a ward, so you're getting a lot of
Yeah.
stats. It's defending, it's
Absolutely.
proactive. It's a great card. Like if you draw it on turn 1 and then you like get spell boost.
Mhm. It oddly reminds me a bit about with Daria compared to like all the other cards that we have in Rune right now. We haven't seen like cards in Rune that gives you a lot of stats for spell boost. Usually it's either Storm or just one big thing on the board. This is like multiple things with like considerable amount of stats. So it's definitely something new.
Mm.
Yeah. I'm personally like interested in playing something like this.
I think I'm liking it, but you probably like play as a one-off or something.
No, I think you play it as three
All
off,
three?
and
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
yeah,
Because once you play the first one, I think all of the cards are spell boost as well. So I think like the card by itself spell boost 5 times once you get played. So if you have another one in hand, it's like 5 times you get spell boost already. So I think you play one, and then like once you play the first, the second one comes down a lot easier as well.
yeah. That's why I like compared this to Daria, because that's also the chain effect that you got with Daria.
Is there any like important cards that are rotating out from the next expansion? That's pretty
Rhino,
crucial.
Not to my knowledge.
I think Omen with 10, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Omen
like,
has.
you definitely can't get Ryo anymore, which is like 9 spell boost, right? So,
Yeah,
so
Ryo.
that'll be pretty big.
It'd be pretty interesting with Ryo though, especially with Solomon still around.
There is like Ryo,
And adjudication, yeah,
Yeah, education.
and that's it.
and that's it
I guess
because
it's not too bad.
Omen has a lot of Manaria cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that I really like this card because we have a lot of ways to spell boost very well in rotation right now, and we are getting some new cards that are gonna help it even more. And we didn't really have a good payoff for it right now. Like, is Zealot good enough to play spell boost? Probably not. Zero mana 3/5 storm is not even the best zero mana storm we have in the game right now.
Oh man, yeah.
Man. But this does give you a critical point of amount of storms that you have in spell boost right now, which, as we've seen in Unlimited, is pretty relevant because you can then chain this into Zealots and the Blade Mage.
Yep.
So you do have 6 storms in your deck right now instead of just 9 storm instead of just 6,
Yeah.
which is I think pretty relevant. But we'll see.
If you play that card on like higher and played on turn 6 while removing the opponent's board every turn, there is no deck in the game right now that can deal with it on turn 6.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, what about Viridian Magna, maybe?
Yeah, but Magna would deal only with the followers, and the legendary Shikigami has the effect on Clash, but it removes all the effects from the follower, except for the changes to attack and
stats.
defense. So Magna loses Bane, right? And you can only trade into the forfeit in that case.
Pretty cool card though.
It's really good.
We have to see if spell boost is fast enough next expansion.
I mean, moreover about like being fast to boost, I think it's more of if they have enough removals and sustainability to like pull off what it needs to pull off, right?
Yeah.
I mean
Yeah.
that's the current problem with like Rune right now as well. That's why you can't really play any spell boost decks. I mean, you have Shock, but you know you still die to aggro. So
However, because that's what we're going to see next, because the next 2 cards are very, very
Shock
consider.
friendly. Right, let's move on to the next card.
So next card is a pre-connect card. This is the first one we see for Rune. It's Kyoka, Price Pupil, Runecraft follower with 3 costs 3/3. He has Funfair, spell boost the cards in your hand. Union burst 10, deal 7 damage to an enemy follower, deal 2 damage to the enemy leader. And final last stat on Evolve with Evolve, spell boost the cards in your hand, deal 2 damage to an enemy follower. So people have been comparing this card to Owl, and it's arguably an even better Owl because you don't need to evolve
Yeah.
for like the spell boost.
Yeah. And you have
My-
an upside of Union Burst, but I don't think like
The universe, like, you don't really need to think about, like, this is probably one of the cards that we think about when we said having a good card with like actual good effects and having only the Union Burst as a plus.
So
I agree.
I think although Magic Owl is like the comparison, I think Eleanor is still in rotation. I think she came out in Alter Sphere, right? So I think she would be like the main consideration because when you play Eleanor on turn 4 and you evolve her, you actually get the 1-cost spell as well, so you actually get to use
The same amount of spell boosts.
Whereas in this case, yeah, it's magic out, but you only have 1 mana left. So, I mean, unless you have something like Insight in your hand, could be a bit awkward to play this card on turn 4, going second.
I've also made that comparison, but I think this card is a bit better than Eleanor if you have a lot of spell boost cards in your hand, because Eleanor only spell boosts 1 card, and it's kind of useless after you like reach the 3 spell boosts on that card. And it's even worse even if you have already only 2, like you're only spell boosting 1 card by 1. And especially in late game, this is much better without considering the Union Burst, because it's basically a 3/3/3 spell. Like, the problem with playing followers and spell boost has always been like they don't spell boost your hand. So cards like Tetra and Eleanor, like they're not that great drawing into late game because they don't chain your spell boost, but this does because of the fanfare effect. It's a lot of tempo as well.
I agree. If spell boost is playable next expansion, both this card and Eleanor are gonna be played in the deck.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
Do you think this will save spell boost to playability?
I actually think spell boost will be good with the new legendary, but I think
Yeah.
we need to see at least 1 more good card with spell boost.
Yeah, they just need. Are there another good removal or like some great draw mechanics
Yeah.
just to like keep their hand filled with these spell boosts?
Yeah. Anything else to add? I think this is like a solid card.
I think it'll be best like because it's like another card that's been revealed, right? For like the
Yeah.
card. So I think if we
Yeah.
do that.
I think you guys have been saying that spell boost has problems early game, and the next card that we're going to talk about kind of solves that a bit.
Yep.
So let's move on. Where is it? Shikigami Summons. It's a runecraft spell with 2 costs. The text: summon a paper Shikigami. You have 20 cards or less in your deck, summon a demonic Shikigami instead. For refresher, paper Shikigami is a 2 mana 1/3 with last word spell with the cards in your hand. And demonic Shikigami is a 3/3/3 with last words spell boost the cards in your hand. So, considering that people have been comparing the previous card to Owl, this is also basically Owl without needing to evolve. Because it's 2 spell boosts and 1 body with really good upside. And the 1/3 stats is pretty relevant for Rune because Rune does still have Magic Missile. So it can trade into a 2/2 and then missile it next turn.
I think it's funny because we were kind of shit talking Hecarim before, but she like actually trades into this on conscious play, and then she survives and gets the effect. But being totally serious, I think any card that generates 2 spell boosts for 2 mana is like incredibly strong. You're getting like insight levels of like spell boost. I think this card is really insane, and obviously you're probably going to run that legend card with it as well, and I think it combos with it. So if you play the legend late game and then you play this with 20 cards left in your deck, you actually
Yeah,
get
the 3/3 storm.
So you're getting like, what is it, like 7 damage or something, like storm to the face. I think it's a really strong card.
It's a really solid card.
Say,
Yeah, it's a really solid.
Yeah, sorry, 1/3 stat line is really good against aggro as well, in my opinion. So as you mentioned, like Magic Missile is like a thing, but like in general, like any deck that like plays a lot of like 1/1 followers or 2/1, like it's gonna get crushed by it.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, if you play it with like Kuon in the later game, so like you get Kuon cheap and then you still get to like cast another Shikigami out and you get Storm, that's pretty nice as well.
Yeah.
One thing to note though, the second spell boost is pretty late. It's a last word.
Yeah.
So like it's just a small dent onto the card. But it's also, you can abuse that because it does mean that you can spell boost the next card you draw next turn if it doesn't die immediately. Real cool card. Anything to add?
Pretty straightforward.
I think one thing I would add is that I think the card is significantly worse when you go second. I just think like when they play like the 2/2 on turn 2 and then like 3, like they play 3/3 something like that, you're like in a really awkward position, like in play. This card doesn't really give you that much board presence against decks that play like high value followers temporary. If you're going second, so that's the only thing I play.
Yeah, that's one of the weakness for 1/3 stats, 2-mana 1/3. It's also probably one of the reasons why we don't see that many 1/3 right now, because especially for 3-drop, the stat line has been pretty power creep.
Yeah,
recently.
3/3.
Yeah.
At least it's actually pretty good that new board card the 3/3, because when she evolves, she does 2 damage. And typically, I would say like a 2 damage Evo effect is actually not enough. But if you're playing paper Shikigami, and then usually there will be like something that's kind of low HP on the board. Just something to point out.
Alright, let's move on then. We'll move on now to Shadow, which only has one new cards revealed, and it's a legendary. It's a pre-Kone, Princess Kone legendary. Shinobu Mausoleum Medium. Is that how you pronounce it? Mausoleum?
Mesalum? Yeah.
Mausoleum? Yeah. It's a Shadowcraft follower with 4 costs for 3, with the effect Funfair Union Burst 10. Deal 4 damage to an enemy follower, then if the selected follower had a 4 defense or less before damage was dealt, deal 2 damage to all enemies. And an evolve effect, evolve summon a Skull Father. For the Skull Father, it's her original token. It's a 2/2/1 Shadowcraft follower with the ability Rush and Last Word, give +1/+1 to 2 random elite followers. And Vanilla Evil stat, same effect. It's pretty weak.
Yeah.
Well, you guys think it's weak? I think it's really strong. Like,
I think it depends on like what Shadowcraft deck are. Like if token Shadowcraft comes back, then yeah, getting the +1/+1 on 2 allied follower is pretty strong. I think my biggest problem is the 6/5 stat because of the power creep of stats right now. Having like 5 health, you die pretty easily to anything. And even if you buff her beforehand with the Last Word effect, it still has only 6 health, and there's a lot of 6 sticks after evolve. So she's pretty weak going first, I think.
I don't know. I feel like it's actually going first. Yeah, it's quite weak. But going second, I think the Evo effect is really potent. If you just want to kill something, like she can clear any board pretty much. Like, which is pretty strong for a 4-cost Evo effect. And kind of 7/6 after the 2/1 dies. And I think the Universe is actually fairly strong. Like, I know we've been like leaning a little bit about the Universe, but like this thing literally clears the board like with the Universe effect. And Shadow is one of the classes that actually has a lot of free Evos. Like you have Cowie, you have like I think there's like another few, like it's in the mini expansion, there's like another free Evo effect. Like there's a lot of free Evo. And I think this card is actually fairly strong, like both with the Universe effect and also with the Evo effect.
Hey, I guess in combination with Jiangxi and the legendary skeleton, you might get the Universe a bit earlier than I thought. Deal 2 isn't really that great, if I'm being honest. Like AoE by 2, sometimes you miss a lot of things, and you do need to have something that you can kill. So for example, if you have someone, like enemy has like a 6 health follower and several 2 health follower, you have to target the first effect onto the 2 health follower instead of the 6 health follower. Because
can't kill a full health Cerberus with a Coco Mimi. Yeah.
You have to kill at least 1 follower with the first effect before like the deal 2 like actually rocks.
Yeah.
Which is like the biggest problem with this card.
Yeah, well, let's just point out that like the Universe effect can't come out until like turn 7 pretty much. So a lot of decks will only have like 1 Evo point anyway. So I think you don't have to worry too much about not finding like a target or like the target having too big of a stat line.
No. My point isn't like you don't have to target. You have to kill something small with the target. So if they have 1 big thing, that you still have to worry about that 1 big thing. If for example we compare this to something like Salamander Spread can deal 5 to something and deal 2 to everything, but this doesn't work that way.
But do you think that like Shadow being Shadow, right? Like they have a lot of cards that like are really small and like have a lot of ways to manipulate damage. Like I think Malevolent, what is it called? Like a 2-cost like removal. Like that can be used like before the 4, because it only costs 4 mana to play the card, right? So you just play like something before you play the deck, and then you can combo like a couple of different ways. And I think Shadow is a deck that creates like a lot of board states where you like go very wide. So essentially, you can even trade something in, and then you can play the card and then clear the board. So
Okay, that's a pretty good argument.
Yeah.
So I think this card is really strong compared to like Penguin. Like, for instance, right? I think you can actually like Shadow has 3 balls, and also the effect is fairly potent.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you even have like a Aisha invoking out, it kind of like reduce the Union Burst count down as well. So there might be a likelihood that you might proc it earlier as well.
Yeah, but I don't think it's definitely stronger than Pecorine.
Yeah.
The thing is, right now, playing a card that you only want to evolve going for a second, like on turn 4, it's a pretty big incentive not to play that card. We don't see a lot of cards that like only does something going second.
Yeah,
Like you want.
happy.
Yeah, I mean, we compare like to the current Natural Shadow shell, then this card probably doesn't fit in at all. Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of unplayable in Natural Shadow, I believe.
Yeah. So unless they release like enough
I think
good mid-rangey stuff to warrant like not playing Natural Shadow, you probably won't see this in play for a while.
So one thing I just want to say is sorry, like isn't Shadow like really bad right now? Like doesn't it like it's not doing well anywhere, right? So I think you guys would be justified in saying that Shadow still sucks, but I think the card itself is not bad.
That bad.
Not terrible, yeah.
Maybe I don't like it. I think like there are ways in Shadow to abuse Evo because you have the legendary skeleton from the mini expansion. Of Aisha, but you need a lot of shadows to that, and I don't believe we have that much or that we have enough shadow generations right now to justify running the card. Because without Union Burst, it's not good.
Yeah, without the Union Burst like getting early, it's pretty pretty Monka as.
Agree.
Osiris might have been better if you think about it.
Osiris is rotating out though.
Yeah, unfortunately. Alright,
So-
let's go to the next card, I guess.
Yeah. We'll move on to the next class, which is Havencraft, with a pretty strong card, I think. Spoiler. Wilbert Grand Knight. It's a Havencraft follower with cost 6, with the stat 4/6 and the ability Accelerate 3. Summon 2 Holy Cavaliers. Ward. Funfair. Give your leader the following effect: when an enemy follower attacks an allied follower with Ward, deal 2 damage to the enemy leader. This effect is not stackable and lasts for the rest of the match. Last word, give your leader the following effect: at the start of your turn, summon 2 Holy Cavaliers, then remove this effect. Has the Vanilla Evo stats and the same 2 effect, like Ward and Last Word. Holy Cavalier is the Actor token, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It's a 2 mana, 1/2 Ward. 3 mana, 1/2 Ward.
2 mana.
2 mana. Okay, so
2 mana, 1/2 ward.
I think this card is insane in Agrohaven. 3 mana for 2 1/2 wards is insane.
yeah.
And this card is basically like deal 4 damage to any leader. Like that's
Only.
like effective line.
Yeah.
This itself has Ward.
Yeah, it deals 6 damage to any leader. Like I think this card is pretty insane. Like pretty much every Haven deck, maybe even like you can probably even run it in Natural Haven. How good it is. I think this card is incredibly strong.
This is like the next leader effect that you pray your opponent doesn't have on turn 6.
Yeah.
It's like the Laffy or the Deus Ex Machina.
Oh, you're completely right. Don't you play this like a Shiva? Like hypothetically.
Yeah. You play this on 6 and Shiva on 8, right?
Yeah.
And your opponent still has to clear the Shiva, and if they have to attack your Shiva, then Well, there's more damage.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Shiva just got so much better.
I'm pretty sure that this is way better than Shiva. I mean, it has one less attack, but
Probably play
Shiva,
both.
the second effect is irrelevant most of the time because you clear the board immediately, and if the second Shiva effect is relevant, you already won the game. This deals damage, and you don't break by drawing this card early. You can always summon to Holy Cavaliers, which is insane versus
Yeah.
aggro, or insane in general for 3 mana.
Having something.
Did Haven really need like more good cards? Like, I mean, like, isn't it already good enough?
Is Actor
yeah,
still
about
around?
Actor is still around. It's Alter Blade.
Oh man.
About Haven getting you good cards, do you think this will be played in Natura?
I think so.
For sure.
Okay. Even more things to worry about in Natura.
In Natura right now, we will have
Meal
this. Holy
fee,
Cavaliers summons. There's also Magna,
Daffodil.
Daffodil. It's gonna be played for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Shiba, obviously.
Yeah,
I'll
but
just say like,
you cut Shiva for this.
You still play one, I think.
I
Just
just
for the
think
board.
like, if you're thinking about playing this card like with no other support, like you don't even worry about like the card effect outside of anything else, and you just play this card just because of itself, right?
Yep.
I mean, that should show you like how ridiculous this card is. Like, how does Haven get a card like this, and then you look at the freaking like Sword card
Shadow,
legendary, and then you look at Shadow legendary, and you're like, how is this even remotely like fair compared to like other classes, right?
Look at the amount of text it has. Oh my god.
But
It has pretty
it's
good
okay.
stat as well.
Sword got a 3 mana free to rush.
Oh yeah, and I forgot. Bjorn did mention Actor,
Mm-hmm.
and this does do well with Actor because the Holy Cavalier
It's the
comes
same
out at the
guys.
start of your turn. It comes out at the start of your turn, so it
Yeah,
basically
you can
gives you
you can
yeah,
turn 6 this, it dies, and then turn 7 you have a full board of like Holy Cavaliers. do
here,
positive
yeah,
chase.
and with Rush, you have a bunch of to rush. It's like insane. At least it doesn't summon at the end of enemy's turn, so the 1/2 is not storm as well.
Yeah.
It would be really insane.
Yeah, I was gonna say, thank God it doesn't like activate when like your card like attacks them. Because like imagine like if they activate it like that, you just take Daffodil and it's like 8 damage to face. Because like the muse side is like a ward as well, right? But yeah, like even so, like the card is broken. Like
Yeah.
imagine if they gave like a universe or something like that as well. Like
I know Shira would be happy about this card.
I mean, yeah. Thank God it's not Clash or Strike. So
It is leader effect, so yeah, really strong card. Okay, we'll move on now.
yeah, just move on. I mean, it's quite a straightforward,
Alright.
strong card.
Lastly, for the 2 officially revealed card, we have the 2 neutrals. Not much to say, but let's start with the golden amulet. Colosseum on high. It's a neutral amulet that costs 3 with the text invocation at the end of your turn. If you have at least 4 play points and there is an allied Colosseum on high in play, invoke this card. Funfair, if another allied Colosseum on high is in play, draw 2 cards and destroy this amulet. Until this amulet is played, both leaders have the following effect. When you play a follower for the first time on each of your turns, give it +2/+2 and rush.
I think that is either 5 out of 5 or 0 out of 5.
Yeah. Well, at least they are careful to make it invoke on 4.
Yeah.
Don't want
Yeah.
another City of Gold problem.
Okay, start with your theory then.
I would say
no.
it's unplayable, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, let's listen to BMA's theory.
I think there are a few people who will be very happy about this. I know in SVO we have people who play like 3 like Jerry decks. Although like the Jerry thing is dead now, right?
Scary rotates though.
But one thing I would just mention, like that I think a lot of people overlook, is actually that at least correct me if I'm wrong, on turn 5, if you just pass your turn, you can actually summon Heaven's Gate, this card, and City of Gold all at the same time. And Apollo, I think it is. You can actually get all 4 of those cards invoked at the same time. And like that's a 5 mana, right? So I mean, like obviously the deck is still shit, but like you can do some pretty mean things. Like just imagine like some guy you're playing against the ladder, like turn 5, just passes turn, and, like fucking 4 things just drop onto your board, and you're like, all right. Well,
Wait, what's the fourth one? What's the fourth one?
Apollo. It's like the 2 mana card that's like a 1/2, and like
right.
so you can actually get 4 cards on the board just by like passing the turn.
But I have 3 amulets and then you're only left with 2 space.
Oh my god.
What happens after he invokes all those cards? You think to yourself, all right, I will
Wait.
take that. Thank you.
But that's a pretty good point though, because it didn't cross my mind. I did think about playing this and Haven's Gate in the same deck, but then I was thinking like, wait, you have to pass turn 4 and turn 5. But yeah, you made a good point because you basically only need to pass turn 5 for it to take effect. But it does still have the same problem with Heaven's Gate in that your opponent does get the effect first. You do that. Like, not only will they get discount, they also get +2/+2 on your
And
cards.
rush.
So hopefully the rest of cards in your hand. Yeah, and rush. But I mean, most of the time you have 0 cards on board anyway if you are doing that. So the rush doesn't matter. So if you're doing that, hopefully the rest of the cards in your hand that you got discounted will be strong enough to carry you.
But turn 5 though, that's like huge crucial turn for most decks.
Yeah, and if you draw either this or Haven's Gate, then you can't do that.
Yeah.
Because you need both of them still on the deck by turn 5 for you to do that. It's so meme.
I think the card would be competitively viable, but
It's
it'll
fun.
be fucking funny. Like you'll play it for fun. Like you play it in Grand Prix, like when you're already like qualified for Group A, you just run at it, and then some guy will be like, "What the hell is going on?" And they'll like thank you for the free win, but like at least you have fun, right?
Yeah. Fun card. I think fun cards are important.
If someone played this against me, like the entire thing, you Haven's Gate, Steve Gold, this, and the 1/2, I would concede out of pure respect.
Only on ladder, right? Not on SVO.
On SVO too.
In
What is
SVO,
you'll
you
take the
look at
2
it, you're like, I can't play this.
I can't play it.
I can't play the game anymore.
Oh, more reason to play close deck list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring this just to meme.
Yeah. I think that,
okay.
there's still one more card.
Yeah, we'll move on from this. It's pretty meme. The last card that's officially revealed. We have Chat, Ringside Announcer, a neutral 5 cost 4/4. That has the text, fanfare, give all other allied followers ward. Whenever another allied followers comes into play, give it ward. Wilbert support.
Yeah, Wilbur
Unplay
support for sure. But I don't think you'll play it.
Yeah.
Like better
You
5
never
drops to
play
play.
it like that.
What if this card was
Okay, guys. This card is bad even in Take 2. 0 out of 5.
Yeah, it doesn't give stats. Pretty important.
This is one of those things where like Cygames were like they knew there was a problem with Storm, and they're like, all right, maybe we should fix this, guys. And then they just missed the mark. They just made the card unviable, right? Like, imagine if this was like a legendary card that like was a leader effect, something like that. Then you could be like, oh, okay, maybe like you actually could play this. But like the funny thing about this card is that like it isn't even good against Roach. Like you play this against Roach, and they just clear with a 2 mana spell, and then they OTK you. Like this card is garbage, right? And like they were so close to making it like viable. They were so close to creating something that was cool, and they just didn't do it.
She only needs to have ward hit herself. I think. Like
Yeah.
the biggest problem is that she doesn't have ward herself. So
Yeah, and like imagine if this card says something like leader effect, like the first time like any player plays like a card, it gets ward or something like that. Like that would be so much more cool, and like it would actually be playable. But
I was thinking like it would be pretty cool if the fanfare effect gives enemy follower ward as well. Like that would. It basically jumps over your opponent's ward, so if they hide something behind a ward, you give the other things ward as well, so now you can attack into them. It's pretty cringe, but it would give the card like a bit more niche to it, at least in Take Two, compared to how it is right now. It's like pretty sad. Well, that's a downer card to end this
Before
on.
we move on, I would like to
Yeah.
mention one thing, which is nothing to do with gameplay, but it's pretty interesting, I guess. Like we usually have a lot of waifus in the game to cater to whips, and in this expansion, when you go to characters, like I guess main characters of this expansion, there are only 2 girls.
It's because we have Princess Connect collab.
Oh,
We have a lot of girls as well.
never
like-
mind.
I'm pretty
Princess
sure
Connect
like
is filled with girls.
I'm pretty sure like each class will get one Princess Connect Legend and one Princess Connect Gold. So that's a lot of waifus already. So fuck this guys.
Fuck this guys.
Fuck the weeps, man. We need more handsome guy like Bjorn over here.
Yeah, but he could possibly go.
Yeah, reminder. It's a guy, not a girl.
Yeah, as a guy. You'll know that if you actually watch the trailer because he actually says something. But anyway, I think that's about it for today.
Yeah.
I don't think we have any questions on chat and on Twitter.
Let me just take a quick look. They were weird questions, I think.
I just wanted to mention how much I hate Shadowverse.
Obligatory.
Yeah, the obligatory I hate Shadowverse. Alright, I don't have any questions on my end.
2
Yeah.
unwinnable finals in the span of 2 months. Fuck this game.
If chat has any, we can like give them some time, but I think that's pretty much it. Because we're not going to cover the leaked cards yet, since they're not exactly official. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have that many time for that much time for
Yeah.
I think around 7 or 8 cards. There's a lot of cards.
Yeah.
They are
And
fun.
we have a tournament in half an hour time, so I kind of need to go and prepare for that as well.
So yeah, we talk about the tournament format and the new expansion. I guess lastly, I'll ask how excited are you guys for the new expansion, especially since Almost of the 10 is rotating out. So we have a completely new format next year.
Well, we know someone's gonna be very happy about that.
Yeah. What do you guys think? You think this will make the format next year a bit better?
No idea.
Just with this one expansion, I don't think so. I think the ladder's still gonna be rampant with all the natural decks for the time being. Usually one set is not enough to shift the whole environment, so we'll see how it goes. But I do like the new mechanics. The whole union bursting is pretty interesting. We have a lot of cute waifus now, so that's some incentive and motivation to play the game.
I'm excited to play some spell boost because I think that the legendary is really good and the cards supporting it are good enough to make it work. But I don't think the meta will change that much. The thing I'm most surprised about is this year we had expansions, two expansions in the same team. When we got Steel Rebellion, we got Machina cards in the next expansion, and we got no Natura cards in this one so far. So I think they were going to release Natura cards, but they saw how broken the mechanics
broken it
is
is. Yeah.
in most of the classes, and they decided to go against it.
I find it interesting though that they always have this pattern in 2 years in a row right now that the first expansion of the year had always been having very slow mechanics tied into it, and then the very last expansion is just storm. We had PFP last time, now we have all of these Natura cards. So it's kind of interesting the direction that they have been going with Shadowverse right now with all of this pacing for very slow meta for early of the year into a very fast meta at the end of the year. Yeah.
And rinse and repeat. Well, I'm pretty excited for the story mode. I do hope they come out with something interesting for this particular expansion.
The way I play the story is skip till the turn 6.
And that's also pretty interesting because they have been facing like one world for 2 expansions of the previous year, but now we only have 1 expansion for the Verdan conflict world, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called, and now we already move on onto the Ultimate Colosseum, presumably. So that's also pretty interesting.
Yeah, I would just say that like I think it's too early to say whether or not Natural will stay on top. I mean, firstly, they could still nerf the deck, and secondly, I remember like there were a few people who were telling me, "Oh yeah, like Verdant Conflict isn't going to change anything. Machina Runecraft is still going to be like the best deck, like the only losing face hand."
That
also have turned out right, like Machina Runecraft isn't even the thing.
that always happens every expansion, and
Yeah.
the one thing that we never learn is that side games always has found a way to make the next expansion change the meta. That's always been true throughout the last 2 years, ever since
Yeah.
they
I
introduced
remember
rotation.
like the last year when we were doing Omen of the Ten expansion review. I said that Valneric is the worst of all the homes.
Turns out she's one of the best.
I really got 1 out of 5 in our review.
It's always fun when we look back at our previous reviews and then we like shit talk on ourselves on what bad judgment calls we made.
This is why I have the show now, so we can shit talk when the time comes.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, the last episode I think went out too early because some cards that we shit talk at like Amatas ends up being very good after the main
Oh
expansion.
yeah.
Yeah, because you got the Divine Smithing or whatever it is called.
Yeah, that was pretty one chaos. Like Amatas, and I think there's one more, but I forgot.
I actually thought that Amatas is good at the beginning of the expansion, but it wasn't consistent enough.
Yeah, we went like Amatas is good, and then it's like no, Amatas is bad, and after expansion, oh no, Amatas is actually really good.
I would say that the best shit talk ever we did of a card was what was it called? The Bloodthirsty Hamster for Bloodcraft. Like, we were
Oh
talking about that, and I called it Bladed Hedgehog, Retarded Bloodcraft Brother. But that was the best one.
And it ended up not being played at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least you were right. At least you were right about that one.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll move on to plugging in our stuff. We'll start with Bjorn because
Oh what? Okay.
playing your stuff.
Yeah, well, I haven't been streaming much, but you can always follow me on Twitter at xbjorn, X. So 1 X in front, 1 at the back, and the O is a 0. Normally, I just tweet very weebish stuff. If you like to follow those kind of stuff, you can follow. Of course, I also share things like Shisho Genius's statistics, and then I'll banter around. But generally, yeah, I like my weak stuff. So if you kind of want to like engage in certain discussions on anime and things like that, you can look for me as well. Yep.
Yep.
Sorry, very weak introduction.
Ella, where could people follow you, Ella?
On Twitter, I guess everyone who wants to follow me already follows me. I tweet salty opinions and retweet ManaSurge stuff mainly.
Yeah, reminds me of when you thought you didn't qualify for contenders and like you wrote like a super like salty post, and then you're like, never mind.
Because,
I made it.
like, dude, fuck this game. I would have had plus 2 points if my game didn't crash. I had a game that was unlosable, so I think that me qualifying for contenders is actually justice. It is actually justice that I qualified.
Bima can relate with you with what happened in Contender 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Last year.
I'm pretty sure we are the 2 most unlucky players this year. 100%.
That's not to think about it.
When are you gonna get banned, Ella?
I don't know. I don't do stupid stuff. If you can get banned for trash talk, and I actually need to go because I ordered a pizza and it's here. So,
Alright. Yeah. Bima? You want people to follow your...
me on BMIC, also the manager of Team Stonify. So at the moment, as with every other team, we're kind of on break. This year the season's over, but stay tuned for next year, where we'll be making a pretty strong competitive presence, despite my recent criminal activities. I think, no, seriously, yeah, keep an eye out for us. We'll do well next year.
Alright, lastly, I'll plug in myself. You can follow me on twitter.com/QSV. And I haven't started streaming yet, despite saying that I'm going to start streaming for 2 podcasts in a row. It's just like pretty monkas, but you can still follow me at twitch.tv/Genki_Kyo. And maybe you'll see me follow. You can follow me on Twitter to get updates on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And then before we left this podcast, I want to remind people that we have a tournament coming up, like
in 15 minutes.
15 minutes. And I don't think you can register anymore, but like
you can.
Oh, you can still register? Okay.
Yeah.
You can still register last minute if you really want. And we also have the top 4 streams tonight, which will be guested by, I think, Glow and Different Fight. Am I right?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you are a fan of any of those 2 guys, I know there's a lot of Glow fans. You can watch the stream later on. And then I think lastly, I also need to mention that this is the last podcast that we're gonna have this year, probably. We can't really fit in one more this year, like due to Bjorn's schedule and my own scheduling as well.
So just for the record, I'll be away in Japan to pay WGP a visit as well. So I'll be there from the 26th of December to January the 8th. So if anyone is in Japan and you want to hit me up, do let me know.
Yeah, so the next episode is gonna be next year, and I'm still thinking about what topic we have. We're going to have.
No Christmas special episode.
That's gonna be a tough one.
Oh, but like,
Not a good anime anymore.
if you're free on Christmas, technically WGP is on Christmas. So if you're free and you're in ManaSurge Discord, we might be having a viewing party.
Most
For
likely, yeah.
WGP,
I'm
most
still around
likely.
Singapore. I can always do that. No problem.
Yeah, I mean, even if like one of us will probably organize.
right.
Yeah. So be around. Join our
We
Discord.
are gonna watch it anyway, so.
Yeah, join our Discord. We're gonna shit talk to people on WGP, even though we're definitely like less talented than they, less skilled than they are.
I'm talking this year because I like all the guys who qualified. I don't know the CEO players, but I got to meet them at contenders, and they're all amazing people. So.
See, Ella does have can puts out positive comment every once in a while.
I'm only toxic on the internet.
Only talks on the chat, not on stream. Okay, so thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next year. Bye bye.
Bye.